Hi, I'm Professor Michele Barbour and welcome to the Enterprise Sessions. Today I'm speaking with Neciah Dorh, who's CEO and co-founder of Fluoretic. Neciah, I'm really delighted to meet you. Thank you for making time to speak with me.
Thanks for having me, Michele. It's great to be here.
I would love to hear about Fluoretic, about your company. Perhaps you could tell me a little bit about it.
Nearly 250 million times every year, we go to our physicians and we ask, sometimes demand, them to treat us for infections. But the problem is that at that point, they have limited information on whether there's genuine infection, what's causing it, and importantly, what is likely to work as a treatment. And as a result of this, we have data that shows that up to 1 in 2 antibiotics currently have been misused, meaning they're used, either they don't need to be used or the wrong one is chosen. All of this put together means that our antibiotics are becoming less effective every single year, which is known as antimicrobial resistance. Fluoretic is on a mission to champion antibiotic stewardship. And what we mean by that is we like to create rapid diagnostics to allow us to ensure that the first prescription is the right prescription. So to do that, we've built 2 technology platforms. The first one is NANOPLEX, and it cuts the time to diagnose infections from 2 days to just 15 minutes. And the second is SCFI, and that will cut the time down to determine which antibiotic will work from 3 days to just 30 minutes.
I sometimes feel that the last couple of difficult years we've had with COVID has put a real spotlight on infectious disease, particularly sort of respiratory pathogens and so on. But I worry it has deflected the spotlight from antimicrobial resistance because, of course, as a viral illness, antibiotics are not really relevant. So I worry that there's not enough focus on antibiotic resistance now, and it's fantastic to hear the strides your company's making. I mean, 3 days to the 10-15 minutes, that's an extraordinary leap. How do you manage to cut so much time out of that process?
Basically thinking outside the box. So what we've done with NANOPLEX is we've focused on the main issues at hand. We need to know what it is, and we need to know how much of it is present, and we need to do that quickly. And the way we've developed this technology is to exploit the way bacteria behave naturally anyway. So there's a cell recognition process that happens. So basically, they look for specific sugars in our bodies to latch onto, and they stick kind of like Velcro. So all we've done is mimic that same process onto a synthetic platform and allow the bacteria to be tricked into sticking onto our probes in the way they would stick onto the body, and that way we can measure them in a fairly short space of time. So there's no need to grow it. And because of the interactions that we're using, we can also quantify how much bacteria is present really quickly.
I'm no microbiologist, but there are millions of different bacteria, pathogenic and non-pathogenic out there. Presumably you can't detect all of them. So how have you how have you narrowed it down? What did you use as your focus for the technology?
It's amazing what conversations could do. So the first thing we actually did was we went to a path lab and asked, where are the key burning issues? And one of the areas highlighted was in urinalysis. The intriguing thing about pathogens that cause urinary tract infections is that there's just a handful of them that cause nearly 9 out of 10 cases. And so it gives us a really tractable problem to work with. So we're focusing on the most important ones first. And because of the way the technology is developed, we could expand the library over time.
And you talked about one of your technologies identifying which bacteria are present, but also then establishing whether they're susceptible to a particular antibiotic. So how does that side of your sort of portfolio of technologies work?
So that is an acquisition, actually. So that was work developed within the School of Physics. We've known about the technology since 2017, and we worked very cordially with them, always knew that there was an opportunity to collaborate. And this year we signed off on the license to bring it in. I think what was most clever and attractive about it is the fact that it really probes just metabolic state of bacteria, which gives you the quality of information needed to take action. So either it's dead or alive, and that's the confirmation you need in order to decide whether the antibiotic works.
Was it always your vision that you would end up the CEO of a Spinout company? Was this always the plan, or did this happen somehow?
To be honest, I didn't think these opportunities happen for people like me. So I always knew, coming from an entrepreneurial family, that I wanted to run a business of my own, but I never knew that starting up a high technology business was within reach. I think I was very fortunate to be at the university when there was a real push and drive. It was the very beginning of it, and that it continues today, but there was a drive around entrepreneurship and researchers taking their ideas and bringing it into the real world and creating solutions for the public. So I never thought I would be a CEO, but I'm really grateful that I took the chance.
I'm so pleased to hear that your sense that this wouldn't be something available to you turned out to be wrong, and that you found that the support was there. I mean, on the subject of support, did you need support as that company was formed and started to grow, and where did you look for that support?
I needed support at every step, if I'm honest. The first bit of support I got was getting co-founders. It takes a lot of people to bring an idea together, and developing the commercial aspect is a full-time job in and of itself. So I couldn't do it alone. So managed to convince 2 other people to join me. So that's Josephine, she's our CTO now, also my wife, and Martin Cryan, who was my PhD supervisor, also came on board. So it really took a lot just to get the concept crystallized. But once that was crystallized, there was the mechanics of setting up a business and finding the right networks. As you put it, we can't do it alone. And I was quite fortunate to be part of the first cohort of Quantum Technology Enterprise Center Fellows. We received training from Cranfield School of Management, but more so, I think what was really great was just the culture of the incubator. My network expanded overnight, and things that seem completely difficult and foreign to a researcher were suddenly achievable. I cannot stress how important that is, because as you said, no one person knows all the answer. So just having those water cooler conversations, even for your mental health, is really important, because often as a founder, I was told early on that being a CEO is a very lonely job. So having other people who are going through the same journey as you to kind of give you that encouragement every now and again, or sometimes just to share experiences with of common difficulties is quite important. And you know, that community cohesion that really attracts investment to the region, but also the people that you need to scale from where you are to the next level.
I know, talking of investment, you've just closed a really big round a little bit earlier this year. So tell me about your experience pitching for investment. How did it feel? How did it go? Did you have any hiccups? Are you pleased with where you are?
Short answer to that is it's incredibly hard to raise money. And I've come to learn that it's hard for everyone. Even the people who are funding us, it's hard for them to raise the money as well. But we've met quite a few good people along the way. Even for those who say no, quite a few of them would give feedback. And it also gave me a better understanding of how I narrow down my focus on which investors to approach and at what stage. Positive experience, I would say. Steep learning curve, positive experience.
If you can get over the discomfort of learning and getting things wrong sometimes, it can be a very, very enriching experience, at least in my view.
You just have to develop that resilience over time and get comfortable with getting the no's. At first, I took it really personally. That first round was extremely hard emotionally.
I think it's easy for maybe you and I, as people with a little bit of experience, to say to somebody earlier in their journey, be resilient, keep trying. But it hurts at the time, it's hard. Did you do anything to gain that resilience, or did it just come with the knocks and blows that you get in life? Did it come naturally?
A bit of both. One of the things I accredited to is faith. So I'm a practicing Christian, and there were moments where it looked like it wouldn't happen, and it's prayers and that having that grounding really brought us through. And no doubt it's grueling. There's a reason why not many people do this. It really comes down to motivation and that zeal to keep going. Yes, you're right, looking at someone who's starting off and saying, just be resilient. If I told me that, I'd go, get out of here, what are you talking about? But the truth is, everybody has to go through it.
What makes you dust yourself off after those difficult days and keep trying, keep plugging away? What motivates you?
Quite frankly, it's an impact. So I've got 2 young kids, and I know the difference that it will make to their generation to have these tools available and to ensure that antibiotics are still working. We often overlook how important these drugs are. So my vision really is that one day I could walk around the corner to the local clinic and to be able to see it there and battered to bits from being used over and over again, because then I know it's really making a difference.
What needs to happen to get from here to there? What needs to happen to realise that vision, that impact?
Quite a lot.
I'm sure, yeah.
But to begin with, the first things is we're currently at the stage where we're doing design. So we're going through the regulated path of taking a diagnostic product into the marketplace. And towards the end of that is the validation phase. So this is where we collect our clinical performance data to really build confidence that the product is working as it should. And thereafter would be moving into evaluation, so the equivalent of clinical trials for diagnostics. But we're leading with the urinary tract infection product, and then afterwards we've got 8 product ideas in the pipeline to follow that on over the next few years.
What would you see as the next targets? If we did this again in 3 or 5 years, what would you like to think you'd be talking about then?
So by then we should have a portfolio covering, urinary tract infections for both diagnosis and antibiotic susceptibility testing, but also sexual health testing and respiratory tract infections as well. The idea is to really implant ourselves at the point of care, so at the sites where not customers, but rather patients are likely to present first, your care homes, your pharmacies, your hospitals. We need to be exactly where the patient is going to present in order to make that difference to the very first prescription. And we'll be looking through partnerships. There's a bit that we'll do ourselves early on, but we are very much open to working with partners to get the adoption across, geographies and customer segments that's needed to drive the impact.
What sorts of partners would be most beneficial to you? What would you be really delighted if one rang you up on a Monday morning? Like, what would you like to work with?
Well, we would like to work with, firstly, the clinician pool. Bigger diagnostic partners than ourselves. So it can work really well when we find a partner who shares our passion for tackling AMR with diagnostics and also speak to the customer base that we're targeting. I think working together, we could make a real difference a lot sooner than if we were try to address the entire world ourselves. Of course, funders are a very important part of this equation. It is quite costly to develop these innovations, but also they bring the connections within the space that allow these partnerships to happen, so that they're an important piece of the puzzle. And talent. I can't overstate talent. We do need people joining us to really start to move what's in our labs and warehouses into the customer's hands and ultimately to the patient's benefit.
How portable could this device of technology be? I'm sort of thinking of conflict zones, of refugee environments. Could this possibly play a role in that sort of environment?
We've always designed and kept as a design constraint accessibility to everyone. So inherently, we are looking at models that will support users outside of more fortunate areas and developed countries as well.
And this is not a problem that you can solve in one area, isn't it? This is a truly global challenge.
It is a global challenge of the scale similar to COVID-19, to be honest. It's growing twice as fast as everyone predicted it would. And also, probably the worst part is that we don't have the drugs in development.
So of all the founders I've spoken to as part of these enterprise sessions, you're the only one that works with a family member.
Yes.
I imagine that brings pros and cons.
It works a lot better than people would think. Our relationship is our superpower because I've got the latitude to work on this as much as I need to, and she completely understands why. And likewise, the other way around.
So if you were to look back, let's say beyond the formation of the company, let's say really look back maybe 10 years, what advice would you give to young Neciah? What would you say with the benefit of what you know now?
I would say, go for it. I started off this journey with a lot of self-doubt as to whether or not, the next step will work out. And this is a level of faith is needed. Truth is, why not you? Why not you? So I would tell Neciah of 10 years ago, just go for it. You don't know till you try.
And do you ever have the opportunity to, if you like, interact with the young Neciahs of today, to interact with young entrepreneurs or young aspiring entrepreneurs?
I do get that opportunity. Once you've gone for it, you realize everybody needs encouragement from someone else. So whatever little you know, you try to share it on. I contacted a few of my friends from high school and said that we really should be going back to our high schools and making our careers accessible. And we set up a series of programs that are still running today to just get people to go back from whatever industry you're in. And there's no bias towards any professional setting. I think anything you do, if you put your mind to it, you can be really, really successful at it, as long as you give someone else the chance to see what it takes to get there. And it may inspire someone to change their career path.
to share that then with young people at that formative stage of their lives when they're thinking, what is in my horizon and what is out?
Yeah.
I don't think we can do too much of that.
Critical.
Yeah.
Absolutely critical for the next generation.
In everything you've achieved, and you could give me 100 answers to this, what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of my family,
Yeah.
to be honest. Secondary to that is really pulling Fluoretic together. I get to work with a great bunch of people that I wouldn't have otherwise met if we weren't building Fluoretic. And I think I'm proud of what we've achieved so far. To see it tangibly in front of you today and to see prototypes coming out and to have a paper published on your work, I think if nothing else, I'm happy about that.
That's a phenomenal achievement. Neciah, thank you so much for being generous with your time and your thoughts. There's so many aspects of your story that I think are informative, inspirational to other aspiring entrepreneurs. So I'm really grateful you had the time to speak with me. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
If something we've spoken about today has piqued your interest and might be relevant to your research, then please feel free to contact us and enjoy the rest of the enterprise sessions.